Hello or welcome back to my channel. We're going to be reacting to Welcome to the Classically Abby podcast. I'm not judgy. I'm looking out for you.
To be classic. So often, as I mentioned earlier, people think when I'm talking about being classic that I'm coming from a place of judgment, that I judge people who aren't classic, that I sit over here and go like, you're dumb for not doing what I'm doing. That's wrong. The truth is, when I'm talking about being classic, it comes from a place of wanting people to be happy.
First of all, who decides what is classic and what is not? Is it you? Are you the authority on all things classic? Because if I remember correctly, women, men, everybody have different opinions on what is and is not good or right for them.
I know that that's almost hard to picture, but really, when I'm talking about being classic, it's because I know that being classic and maintaining traditional values leads people to live happier lives and have more meaning, have more purpose. The truth is that women have gotten more anxious and more depressed since they have lost their meaning and purpose. I feel really passionately about this. I read this article and I know what I'm gonna do if I forgot to mention, my hard drive with all of my work on it has been broken by Mr. Baby pulling it down from where it sits. So I have to try and get all of my information off of it. But on that hard drive is an article that I am really passionate about because it's written by a colonel. It was written in like the 50s or 60s, and I think it was written in the 60s because it was post sort of like it was the beginning of feminist ideology starting to pervade women's ideology. And the interesting thing about that article is that it really talks about how women have been divorced from their meaning and purpose as wives and mothers, and because of that, they're more anxious and more depressed.
Hold that thought. Are they really, Abby? Let's look at this. From homeverafter.com, and I'm going to be paraphrasing, I'm not going to read the whole thing. During the 1950s, many housewives got frustrated with a life that seemed to consist solely of constant chores, housekeeping, and caring after family. These frustrated homemakers started taking a prescription tranquilizer called Milltown, which promised to make all their problems go away. The real solutions to the problem of this ultra-focused lifestyle, as we know from history by looking at the evolution of women in society during the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, were positive lifestyle changes. However, instead of looking for possible life changes as a solution, family doctors everywhere in the United States began prescribing 1950s housewives a medication called meprobamate, more commonly known by the brand name Milltown. If women were always more content and were never depressed or anxious as housewives, then why were they seeking out medications, many of them? And the drug Valium was, if I remember correctly, called Mother's Little Helper by some. Valium, of course, is a benzodiazepine for anxiety. And could be for other things.
More anxious and more depressed because they don't have the clear picture of what they are for. So as we've told women that motherhood and being a wife is just kind of like a choice, something that you don't have to do.
You don't have to do it. It is a choice.
Some people want to do, but it's just like something that's been forced on you by the patriarchy, and really your meaning comes from everything else. Women have actually gotten more anxious and more depressed because they're making bad choices that are leading them away from the choices that would give them meaning and purpose and fulfillment. The truth about it is that as women here's the real thing, right? There's a very small percentage of women, 1%, 2%, that don't actually want children.
Okay. Proof, Abby? Do you have proof of that? And even if that is true, it's still a percent. There are still women out there, no matter how much the number is, that don't want marriage and kids. So, thus, not all women want marriage and kids.
Don't want to have children, that don't want to get married, that are happier doing something else. But the narrative is that half of women want that. That, like, it could be a 50-50 shot with you. That perhaps you will want those things, perhaps you won't. That is the biggest lie that feminism has told women. That it's like maybe you'll want those things. Totally incorrect.
Again, back to the article I referenced. Obviously, not all women ended up wanting those things because they were seeking out, medications to deal with depression and anxiety while living that life. If all women wanted that all the time, then that wouldn't have been the case.
99% of women want those things. And when we give women this picture of like, oh, well, you'll see, it really leads women down a path of making poor choices, making bad decisions.
Abby, speaking of poor choices, I have known of women in my life, known them personally, that were taught that marriage and kids was the ultimate fulfillment, and that was their purpose. So they did. Very young, most of the time. And later on, because they were very unhappy and decided that life wasn't for them, they decided to leave their family, leave the kids. And I'm not saying this is right, but it happened. I have known women where this was the case, Abby. So, marriage and kids can also lead to choices that may not be the best.
Decisions that make those huge, important life goals of being a wife and being a mother more difficult to come by. As you are putting all of your energy into a career that may preclude you meeting the right guy or may preclude you having children, you are really ending up making choices that are pushing you away from the things that you need to do to feel good about yourself. And not only good about yourself, but have purpose in your life. I'm not saying that careers can't be fulfilling, but they are not going to bring you ultimate fulfillment, right? I love my job. I love what I do. It brings me meaning and purpose, and I really, really like it. But if I had to choose between this job and being a mother or being a wife, this job wouldn't even come close. And the problem is that we've positioned it like, oh, they're equal. If you are super successful in your career, you may not need to be a mother and a wife. And it's just incorrect. One of the things I've been thinking about is when we make being a mother and a wife a burden rather than a gift, then women had to find their meaning in other places, right? And when I say that being a mother and a wife is a burden, that is not an exaggeration. We're talking about Betty Friedan. We're talking about The Feminine Mystique. That's the book that she wrote. And in this ideology, feminists told women that men get to go to work.
Okay. In many cases, Abby, that was the case. Let's, again, go back to searching. Abby, in the past, working was not a choice for women, even if they did want it. And really, only men got to go to work, in many cases. Okay. 8 laws that helped women make history in the workforce from Forbes.com. One of the defining fights of women's history in the U.S. is the right to work on equal terms. And I'm going to paraphrase this article again, not saying, going to cover the whole thing. Okay. Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Although not targeted to women, the Fair Labor Standards Act has done much to help women earn a living wage. The minimum wage affects more women than men, particularly women who are single and head of household. The Equal Pay Act of 1963. The Equal Pay Act makes it explicitly illegal to pay women a lower wage than men simply based on sex. Okay, Abby. If women were always able to work and work equally, then we would not have needed these laws. Take the Pregnancy Discrimination Action of 1978. Okay, in the past, you could fire somebody simply for getting pregnant. The Family and Medical Leave Act. Prior to 1933, there was no right to take leave from a company to care for a newborn or adopted child. So if you were a woman and you got pregnant, too bad for you. You just got fired in many cases. So in many cases, only men did get to work. So there's that. So, with that in mind, let's go back to the video.
Work. They get to leave the house where you have to stay chained back at home, raising the children. Instead of saying, men don't get to work, men have to work. Right? The picture that we have in 2023 and when the show came out, I don't remember the exact year, but I'm thinking of Mad Men, right? Mad Men is the exact picture of like what feminists think was wrong with the 1950s, right? Men get to go to work, they get to party, they get to sleep with their secretaries, and the women are home alone, depressed, raising the kids. That is false. That is not real.
Is it really false, Abby? Was it always false?
Men have to work to support their families. Now, does that mean that the men...
Women also have to work many times to support the family, Abby. It's not just men. Let's point that out.
That all men hate their jobs? No. But if men had the opportunity to stay home with their kids and their wives, I think a lot of them would love to do that. I mean, look at kind of how things have played out since COVID. We have many, many people choosing to work remotely because they'd rather be at home. And men have to work, not get to work. Women get to take care of the children and take care of their homes. And some of them...
Privileged women do. Not all women have that privilege. They have to go to work, Abby.
Get to do some work as well. And all of this is a grass is always greener thing of like, I'm sure some men look at their wives and think, oh, I wish that I got to stay at home and take care of the kids all day. And some women look at their husbands and think, oh, I wish I got to go to work. But the truth is that we have different roles. Now, those roles can change in specific situations, but generally, women would like to be at home with the kids, even if we're told that, like, it's a prison. As Betty Friedan wrote, women who adjust as housewives, who grow up wanting to be just a housewife, are in as much danger as the millions who walked to their own death in the concentration camps. They are suffering a slow death of mind and spirit. Yeah. I mean, this is where so much of this feminist ideology started.
Okay, on that note, I might not agree with everything Betty Friedan wrote, but in many cases, teaching women to just get married and have kids. There's nothing wrong with getting married and having kids, but to teach them only that and not encourage them to go out and get skills and be able to support kids if they have to is dangerous. What if you get divorced? What if your husband dies? What if he leaves you? What do you do in that situation? If you have not been taught to get skills or have education or fend for yourself, you could be in a lot of trouble, Abby.
So all of these feminists who say, no, it's all about what women want to do. If a woman wants to stay at home, then she can. If a woman wants to go to work, then she can. They don't really think that. They don't really think that.
Don't really think that. Abby, are you a mind reader also? Are you omniscient? Omnipotent? No, don't think so.
They think that we live in a patriarchy, that women are constantly victims and men are constantly oppressors, and there's no way to break out of that. And if women had the opportunity to go to work, they would, but women have to be with their kids. No. Women get to be with their kids. I think the reason I'm talking about all of this is because as we encourage women away from those choices that will bring them joy and happiness and goodness to their lives, we're also leading them away from...
Marriage doesn't always bring goodness, Abby. Some marriages are terrible. Some marriages are abusive. Some marriages involve cheating. Not all marriage is good.
Making the choices that would bring them ultimate, happiness and joy. I think being classic is important, and the reason I tell women to be classic, because I want to see them be happy. Okay. So, now, I think we have a question here of how do women find meaning and fulfillment before they have children and get married? This was something I struggled with as I was talking about, the two things that I always talk about for women is being a wife and being a mother. Now, again, I don't think that you can't work. I just think you have to have your priorities in life. And I think you have to understand what comes first. I think that one of the things that gets me is women who talk about going to work rather than being at home with their kids if they had the option. There are women who have to work because they need to help support their families. And then there are the women who want to work, and so they hand off their kids to someone else. That I'm not as much a fan of. I think that women, if they have the choice to be at home and can be at home, they should be at home with their kids. Now, if their kids are in school, then great, use that time and work. But if your kids are at home, then what are you doing by choosing to do something rather than raise your children? The thing that's of ultimate importance. But women who are not yet married and who don't have children yet, they still have value. I did a whole video on my YouTube channel about this. They're still really important. So what do they do before that happens? How do they find meaning and fulfillment? Through constant bettering and improvement of themselves. And by spending time with friends at that same era of life. By moving toward a goal, but also appreciating where they're at. I think we often, if you tell people that they need to be working towards something, they have to, in their heads, hate the place that they're at. And that's just wrong. You can say, I'm happy where I'm at, and also I'm going to make choices that will eventually lead me to where I want to go. So there's very much meaning in fulfillment and joy to be had before you have children and before you get married. But you have to make the choices that will lead you in the best direction. And that's why I tell women to be classic. Because if they don't line up things in the right way to bring them towards those things that they're aiming for, then they're going to end up not getting the things that they truly need and want. One of the things I don't like about this ideology, this feminist ideology, is that
I'm going to say this again. Not all women need marriage and kids. Some women shouldn't have marriage and kids for obvious reasons, and not all women want that.
as soon as women are put in the position of having to choose between motherhood and work, they feel guilty when they realize that motherhood is more important to them than keeping up with the feminist narrative. There's a reason that women make less than men, and it's not because there's a wage gap. It's because women choose to do different jobs or not work.
Excuse me? I don't agree with this. Don't agree with it.
Women choose to be at home with their kids. But then, and I've talked to so many friends like this, and I struggled with it, there's a feeling of guilt that you're not being a girl boss, and instead you're just being a mom. That's a really poisonous worldview and outlook that we've put on women. So, at the end of the day, being classic brings contentment because you love what you were made for and you make choices in line with your purpose. And that's a beautiful thing. So that's why I encourage women to be classic. That's why I encourage women to embrace their femininity, and why I encourage people to engage with traditional values and have traditional values, because traditional values are built around how people work, how people are built. They're built around how people are built. But what I mean is, traditional values are traditional for a reason, in the sense that they've lasted so long because they work. Because people were meant to be that way. So with that all in mind, let's move into our faith talk.
With that in mind, let's go to your past videos, Abby. You say you're not judgy. Okay. And you don't tell people that their choices are dumb. Just have babies. 7 amazing things about being a mom. Interesting. Let's look at this. Her past video. Obvious truths I'm tired of saying.
Hello, Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video, where we're going to be talking about obvious truths I'm tired of saying. If you are new to my channel, that's my book club, my discussion threads, and our community by now. And I'm so annoyed that it's still controversial when I say them. So, let's get into today's video.
Let's do this.
Number 1, stop having sex with random people. And by random people, I know this is really not popular, but I'm talking about anyone who you're not married to. Yes, your boyfriend is a random person because you've not committed yourself to sharing your life with that person. So, yes, your boyfriend is random. Anyone who is not your spouse is random. Stop doing it. It's not good for you. It's not good for you mentally. It's not good for you emotionally. It's not good for you physically. There's really nothing good about having sex before you're married. The great thing about sex when you're married is that it brings you and your husband closer together. It gives you the opportunity to create a new life. It's a great thing when you're married. But when you're not married, it's dumb. Stop.
Abby, did you not say in the video I just showed that you don't call people's choices dumb if they don't do what you do? I'm paraphrasing again.
Doing that. Just stop. You have to stop. Number 2, get married. Yeah, getting married is actually better than any other option. If you can get married, get married. Now, for those people who have been looking and are having a hard time finding the right person, we're not really talking about that scenario, right? Because they're trying their best to find the right person. But for everyone else who thinks that marriage is just an option, that marriage is okay, or that marriage is actually a worse choice than remaining single, that's stupid. Stop that.
Again, calling other people's choices stupid, beliefs stupid.
It's obvious that marriage is the best option. You have support. You have a lifelong love. You have lifelong commitment. You can build a family with someone who has promised to stay with you and support that family. You can enjoy the company of someone for the rest of your life. And honestly, getting married makes the world a better place.
Obvious.
Number 3, have babies. Yes, having babies is actually a good thing. It is the best option. If you can have babies, have babies. It's awesome. Number 1, it's fun. But number 2, it's actually a fundamental good to take care of the next generation of people, to grow the next generation of people, and to raise them with good and strong moral values. That's it. I don't know why this is complicated. Yes, having babies is what you should be doing. Traveling the world? Having a beautiful, amazing career? Okay. Did you have babies? No? Oh, okay, what are you doing?
That sounds awful judgy to me. Telling people that they should do something just because you believe they should. Okay, I'm going to end this video. Leave your comments below. What do you think? Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.